A new week. It's the Monday edition of Mr. Relevant, presented by Dorcotti Distillery. That was a tough open. I'm Alex Strouf with you from the Gruber Loves, as one call that's all studios. At the Avenue in downtown Milwaukee. No, I don't. We're just going to keep rolling.
Is it better than your usual, yeah?
What was that?
You always open with, yeah. It's Mr. Relevant.
Yeah, it's a Monday edition.
Yeah.
Yeah. And back in the day, for all the longtime listeners, Joshy, you haven't had to do these for years. That's Josh DiMaggio, who you just heard. You also heard Hunter Vaughn, Tiny Hands, back at the Everlight Solar Studio in downtown Madison. So on ESPN Madison, we have these bottom of the hour Sports Center updates. Joshy, you haven't done these in years, but Hunter did what, 5 today probably, where you pretty much have 90 seconds to give the news of the day. I would always open mine with, yeah, it is, and I'm Alex Strouf. Did you have a catchphrase when you did yours?
Sup, pals?
Sup, pals?
Yep.
That's what you said.
Every time.
Wow, you're a broadcast legend, dude. No doubt about that. Hunter, how do you start yours? What's your catchy, hey, I'm here?
What is up, Madison? I'm Hunter Vaughn. Your Sports Center update is brought to you by...
Yeah. Hold on. What is up? You don't say what's up? You say what is up?
What is up? A little bit different. Okay. Catches the ear a little different.
Yeah, you're right. It certainly piqued my interest. Are you a what's up guy, though? Like, if you're talking to a buddy and you're like, hey, what's up?
I don't know. I've never paid attention. It was just told when I first started. Jesse Nelson was like, yeah, come up with something to say to, like, catch people's attention and do that. And I landed on that. And I'm like, well, this is what I'm doing.
You went the route of, hey, people's ears aren't used to hearing this as being spoken like an 85-year-old white man is saying it. So you filled that void.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
I like it. Sup, pals is just broadcasting garbage. I love it. It's efficient in that manner, and I don't mean that as a diss.
Tells you what I thought of SportsCenter updates.
You really enjoy doing them, is the takeaway I get from it. Anyway. Lots to get to today, man. Family night was on Saturday. We're going to do a ton of overreaction to that. Maybe not overreaction, but a couple of things that caught my eye. And I want to give a shout out right off the top to Justice Mosqueda, who did all the snap counts, first team snap counts from Saturday's 11 on 11, which we're going to take quite a look at, especially in the wide receiver room, from first team snaps on Saturday. And for the first time ever, the Packers streamed this on Packers.com. So I was having a few beverages, and I got to watch Family Night. It was kind of cool. Look, I've been to Family Night twice. I don't know that I would go as a fan maybe until I have kids ever again. I don't think it's I like that they stream it, and I wish they streamed every practice, but they don't like video footage of their practices open to the fans. But I'd love that they streamed it. It was an enjoyable watch. I got to see Jordan Love do some things. We saw a ton of cool moments, including one we'll show you right off the top here. And if you haven't seen this video already, you've probably been living under a rock, but it's so good you can watch it 800 times. This kid from Waupun, it was out there. The Waupun, I think it was 5th and 6th grade football teams were out at Lambeau, and they did a scrimmage, and then they did some things as a part of the practice. So the video you see now on the YouTube stream is this 6th grader being coached up by Rich Bisaccia, catching not one. There's a second catch on a punted football, and here is a third one coming in, but he's hanging on to the other footballs as he catches these. So he catches the third and the final, and now you'll see the celebration. Jordan Love, Christian Watson, Josh Jacobs, everybody running down there to go celebrate with this young buck for catching all 3 footballs. And in all honesty, right, like, this video is kind of what Family Night's all about, right? Number one, it proves that the Packers have the best fan base in the NFL, as they sell out Family Night each and every year. And when you look at other teams in the league, when they do their big practice in their home stadium, they're maybe getting 30% attendance or max attendance capacity, maybe 40%. But Green Bay is selling this out. We've got 70,000 people in the bowl at Lambeau Field watching a practice, which is just really cool. And for being the smallest market team, right, it proves the loyalty and the opportunity that Green Bay has. And then moments like this, just the cherry on top, which is really neat for a kid like that's a moment he's never going to forget. That's a story he'll tell everybody for the rest of his life. And by the way, impressive. I don't care if you're 18, 28, or 8. If you're catching 3 footballs in a row while hanging on to all of them, that's an impressive feat. So well done by the young buck.
Yeah, his
We've got
name,
a punter here on staff.
Yeah, we do. Brad Nortman. That's accurate. So you're telling me I need to try this, Joshy?
Yep.
Oh, boy. That's a great idea.
A little Mr. Relevant short.
Yeah, we'll give it a shot. I won't catch any of the three, though. Now, I don't know what the truth is in terms of the punted balls. Were these flying out of like a machine?
A jugs machine.
It was a jugs machine. So do you think that is the equivalent of an NFL punter's leg?
Punter who hasn't punted in how many years? Probably.
Okay. So Brad and I need to find a
40
field.
yards.
Okay. So 40 yards, and I need to try to catch 3 of them in a row.
Uh-huh.
All right, we can work on that. We can make that happen this week. We need to find a field, but we could do that this week. Go ahead, Hunter.
So a couple of things here. First, kid's name, Trace Ramirez. His grandfather called into Wilde and Tausch as we were talking about this on the show, and he wasn't able to hang on to get him actually on the air, but he first was like, I want to thank the Packers for making the world's happiest 11-year-old. Like, he was thrilled about it, and he was just over the moon. I want to say that and then pivot to just the Packers family night and make sure I'm being very clear in my separation of these two statements.
So that was positive. Now you're going negative.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
The Packers are in the smallest market in the NFL. I have lived in the Fox Valley. I know that there's not a whole lot going on a Saturday night on the first Saturday of August. So there is a lot more likelihood that people are going to go to family night as opposed to teams that do this in a top 5, top 10 market in the country, where it's a lot more difficult or there's a lot more else going on. So, like, I think there's an asterisk whenever we talk about, like, oh, well, they sell out family night, so that's all automatically they're the best fan base in the NFL. Yeah, if you put their family night when there's literally nothing else going on in a city where there's nothing else going on, other teams would probably be able to do it too. So, like, this idea that this is why Packer fans are the best in the NFL, I think is a little weak. My third thing, Brad has said that he is worried about breaking fingers when he has tried to have other people punt balls. So if you're okay with breaking a finger, like, I'm just trying to be that warning for you. So
yeah, no, that's fair. I'm an athlete. It wouldn't happen. I'll be fine. Yes, I am. Okay, let's go back to point 2 for a moment, because it is the weakest crap you could bring to the table.
It's not, though. And you
know
that it's not. If you're being
are you going to let me
honest,
respond or no?
It's not.
Okay, you're not going to let me respond? Or, we're just going to, hey, I say one sentence and you automatically get back at me? Let me respond, and then you can tell me that it's not a weak argument. So let's start there. First off, if we want to use the same old trash talk that's been thrown at Green Bay for decades, which is there's nothing going on in the city, fine, do it. But people have lives. People have cottages. They go up north. They have vacations. They have family outings. They have all sorts of things just like any other city, not only in the United States, but in the world. People have other things going on. So to prioritize a practice, it's not done in other markets. And why do you think that is, Hunter? You think everybody's all jacked up because they're going to the Texas Rangers game instead when they're 20 games under 500? That's why they're not supporting the Cowboys? Or in Chicago, they have a fancy dinner to bring their 6-year-old to? No, that's not the excuse. It's not a valid one. When you look at the wait list of season tickets, what's the longest in the NFL? That would be the Green Bay Packers. When you talk about selling out a family night, one team does it. That's the Green Bay Packers. So you can sit here and make there's nothing going on, ramble as much as you want. But people make this a priority, and they don't in other markets. And I don't think that's because of the cities they live in. I think that's because of the passion of the fan base. And sure, if you want to make the there's nothing going on argument, which, fine, I grew up in Green Bay. I'm fine with it. But let's also realize people could say, hey, no, I'm just going to hang out at home. We're going to have a grill out, and we're going to watch it on TV because they air it in the local market. I will never understand that argument towards Green Bay. Yes, there's not a ton of big events going on now, right? You had the Green Bay Blizzard indoor football team playing in the Eastern Conference Championship at the Resch Center on Friday, and people went to that. But I hate that argument. It's trash. The Green Bay Packers are the best fan base in football. And if you want to knock the city size, that's fine, but I think that just proves that city bleeds green and gold. Like, that's a positive thing. And sure, It's a small market, but they do a better job of supporting their football team than any other market in sports. So make the argument all you want, but it's a bad one.
I don't think it's, if you're talking about the family night, the season tickets thing has nothing to do with that. That doesn't equate into it. And my point is that, okay, we'll just use Dallas as the example. I guarantee you there are more things going on a given Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening for families to be able to do, instead of driving up to Frisco to where they go and have theirs at the Cowboys practice facility. So I think it is just a different way that the Packers do it, and that being the example for why the Packers fans are the best in the NFL, I don't think is necessarily the case. I think there's plenty of other reasons you can give.
Do you think I'm basing that strictly on family night?
You literally opened with
it.
That's what you opened with. Was that this is why the Packers fans are the best in the NFL. The family night is the reason why.
But yes, it certainly plays a role, yes. Amongst 87 other things, yeah.
And I think it's the weakest of those 87 things. So to act like it's this shining beacon of what it is for the Packer fans, I think is the weakest of them. Your strongest being the season tickets.
Okay. That's not even really my point, though, right? I think it's another example of why the Packers are the best fan base in the NFL. The fact that they can get 70,000 people to a stadium on a Saturday night in August. It's a Saturday night in August. There's weddings. There's family events. People go up north. 70,000 people are there. That's ridiculous. Other teams try it. They don't get close. That's my point. And no, that is not the sole reason, because I could list 100 more. The Packers are the best fan base in the NFL. And this is a special night. This is a cool night. It's a cool thing they implemented back in 2001. It's phenomenal. And Mr. 36 on YouTube chiming in. Staying fair, fishing, camping, lots to do. Daniel chimes in. I know people who spend the entire week in Green Bay, do the dream drive, do the practices, cap it off with family night. It's a great experience for youngsters. Absolutely. And the video we just saw, I think you said his name was Trey, the 11-year-old from Waupun. Moments like that aren't happening elsewhere in the NFL. It's awesome to implement the youth into a big-time practice. The one with the most eyes on it, outside of the preseason games, which we'll talk about in a little bit, as that's coming up. It was really neat. And I love that they streamed it this year. I love that they... I love that they put it on Packers.com. They allowed fans that aren't in Green Bay to watch it, like me, who's in Milwaukee now. I had a few drinks from Door County Distillery. I watched Family Night. I was watching Jordan Love sling it. I was watching the defense look really good. I was keeping an eye on some of the first team things, and I mentioned at the top, Justice Mosqueda of Acme Packing Company did a great job of putting together each of the first team snaps, which we'll dive into here after the break, because I do want to talk about the mouths to feed offensively. Because we keep talking about how, maybe the depth and not having a number one guy is the Packers' superpower, which I think you can make a really strong argument for. But what you saw on Family Night might be a strong indication of what's to come when we get into the regular season. So we'll talk about that here in a minute. But first, I want to tell you about my friends from Door County Distillery, the presenting sponsor of Mr. Irrelevant. Locally produced, handcrafted, award-winning spirits made locally in beautiful Door County. They've got the green bottle of gin, the blue bottle of vodka, the delicious whiskeys, single malt whiskey, 27-time gold medal award winner, 27-time gold medal award winning single malt whiskey. You got to try it. It's almost whiskey season. Can't wait. They've got the bourbon. Huge fan of the bourbon as well. And then the rye whiskey as well, on top of a ton of other things. You'll see this. This is a Door County Distillery exclusive. You can only buy it at their location in Carlsville. So if you're headed up to Door County for, apparently people don't do anything up in those neck of the woods. But if you're going up there for the views or a wedding or an event in the next couple of weeks, you got to pop in, do the tour, do the tastings, tell them I sent you. You don't want to miss it. And you can get this cherry bourbon, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Now you will watch 60 seconds of that proof. DoorCountyDistillery.com, the website to find the retailer nearest you. And a huge list of unique cocktail recipes. When we come back, we talk too many mouths to feed offensively, snap counts from Family Night, and a couple other things ahead of the preseason opener Saturday in Cleveland against the Browns. That's coming up next. It's Mr. Irrelevant. I'm Alex Strouf. Back in Carlsville at the legendary Door County Distillery with my buddy Rob from Door County Distillery, and we have a Door County Distillery exclusive in front of us right now, Rob. Cherries, bourbon, two of my favorite things. Put them together. You got the Door County Distillery cherry bourbon. It's beautiful. We're just doing shots?
Yeah, we're just
Let's
going to try straight up. I mean, it is good for mixed drinks. You can put it in old fashions, Manhattans, but sometimes you just want to straight up take a little shot of it.
I won't complain about that. Like I said, two of my favorite things. Cherries, bourbon, Door County cherries, bourbon. I can't complain. Yeah. Cheers to you, buddy. Thanks a lot.
Prost.
Ooh, that's tasty. Oh, that's good.
Yep.
That's really smooth.
Get that cherry flavor. Yep. Not a whole lot of burn. Beautiful.
That's terrific. Door County Distillery exclusive, the cherry bourbon.
Check out their website with a huge list of unique cocktail recipes at doorcountydistillery.com. That's doorcountydistillery.com.
Cherry bourbon. Oof. Almost bourbon season, man. I view football season and bourbon season as the same seasons. I don't know if other people view it that way. But, like, once we kick off week one, bourbon season. Oh, I can't wait. Can't wait. Let's go, baby. All right, let's dive into this. So this was interesting from Justice Mosqueda. The wide receiver snap counts from Family Night with the first team. So this would be with Jordan Love running the quarterback, right? He did every first team rep now that he's back in practice. This from the article on acmepackandco.com. Romeo Doubs took 21 of the 26 first team offensive snaps. Christian Watson ranked second, with 19 snaps. Jaden Reed in there with 16. So let's draw a line there, right? Those are your top three receivers as it stands today, August 5th. Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, and Jaden Reed in the slot. If you have three receivers on the field, oftentimes you do, it will be those three a lot of the times. Now, where people are getting concerned is when you go to the next three that played some first-team snaps. Dontavian Wicks is the fourth name with 6 snaps. Bo Melton, 1 snap behind Wicks with 5 first-team snaps. And Grant Dubow's getting in there a little bit. The draft pick from a year ago who didn't see the field. 2 first-team snaps for Grant Dubose. So those are essentially your top 6 receivers as it stands right now. But where people are, I don't want to say freaking out. I think that's a little strong. But where people are getting concerned or wondering what's going to happen with this wide receiver room is the 6 snaps for Dontavian Wicks. I saw a lot of fantasy football content creators and bloggers saying, hey, stop the Dontavian Wicks hype. 6 snaps of 26 with the first team at their stadium practice. He's not worth drafting in a fantasy draft. By no means am I a fantasy football expert, despite 11 years ago writing for SB Nation's fantasy football department. I am by no means a fantasy football expert. Fake it till you make it. Wicks is still a very, very, very intriguing prospect for 2024. And when you look at 26 snaps for the first team offense at Family Night, you do have to understand that's about half of what you get in a real game. So let's just double that. Let's say 52 snaps in a regular offensive game or so. Wicks, in turn, would be getting 12 of them. That's still quite low. So what does that mean? Let's just stumble over through the possible scenarios of what that means, and I'll let you draw your conclusion, and I'll give you mine as well. Scenario 1 is they haven't seen enough from him, and they're clearly sending a message that it is a top 3, not a top 4 like a lot of us have assumed throughout the offseason when it comes to the Packers wide receiving core. Maybe the Packers view it as we have 3 strong horses. That's Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, and Jaden Reed. Those are our 3 guys, and sometimes we'll dip into the Bo Meltons and Dontavian Wickses of the world. That could be scenario 1. Scenario 2, he's had a rough camp. This is public punishment for it. But that really hasn't been the case, right? You've heard a lot of good things about Dontavian Wicks through the first 10 or so practices, 10 practices now after Family Night. So I don't think that's the case. Is there something going on internally? Are they sending a message to Dontavian Wicks? That, of course, is a possibility. Are they trying to calm down all of the hype? Jair Alexander going on national publications. Jordan Love doing his Ask Me Anything with Bleacher Report a few weeks back. Both of those guys saying, yeah, Dontavian Wicks is going to be really good. He's going to be really good. He's a guy to watch. So I'm not freaking out over this. And I think the reason for that is we saw what happened a year ago between injuries and how often Matt LaFleur likes to change up the personnel he has on the field. I think Dontavian Wicks is going to get his and is still going to have a very, very good chance for a breakout sophomore season with the Packers. Only 6 first-team snaps of 26 at family night obviously isn't the brightest indication. Oh, and by the way, the fourth scenario, of course, is they're streaming this for the first time. They don't want other teams to see what Wicks is capable of. That, of course, could be the fourth scenario. I think that's probably one of the least likely, but I don't know. You never know with Packers paranoia. It is a very real thing. So what I draw this up to is they're not running a lot of personnel on family night in 11 on 11s with 4 receivers. And I think you feel really comfortable with 2 30-year guys in Dobbs and Watson being your top 2 and Reed being your slot receiver because he's just capable of more than every other receiver on this team. He's more versatile. He can line up in the backfield. He can line up in the slot. He can do some fun end-around stuff. He can catch it between the hashes. He can work outside between the numbers and the sideline. Reed is a really, really versatile receiver. Wicks is a great route runner, debatably top 10 in the NFL already. Like, he is a really, really crisp route runner. Watson takes the top off defenses. He's one of the fastest receivers in the NFL. And Romeo Dobbs is just as consistent as can be. And I think he's become, in some way, shape, or form, Jordan Love's type of security blanket, right? Rodgers had his 87. Now Love's got his in Romeo Dobbs. So I think that's all it is. I think we're probably reading too much into this. Because if they're down by a touchdown in the fourth quarter, you're going to see 4 receivers on the field, and he'll be out there. And shoot, we might get to a point halfway through the season where Wicks over Watson makes more sense, and it's more Dobbs, Wicks, and Reed. Or maybe it makes more sense for Watson, Wicks, and Reed. Your very high potential wide receiver lineup. I think it just is what it is here, and maybe we're looking too far into it. Before we get Hunter's reaction to this, though, I want to go to Joshy, because Josh, you're the one that brought this up to me, and you are also the one that floated the theory of, hey man, maybe they're just trying to hide Dontavian Wicks from other teams because they're streaming this practice. What do you think the story is here? Because when we talked a lot about the Jordan Love contract situation, you were the only one that was like, hey, there's more to this story. So, Joshy, I ask you, hey, is there more to this story?
I think we can't totally dismiss this story as it's happening. I would dismiss the idea almost out of hand of they're trying to hide him. But the Packers are so weird.
They're so weird
about the way they protect themselves and protect like the state secrets that it has to at least be a factor. To me, the most likely option is they think they got their 3 guys and that's it. I do have concerns about that because I think a offense run through Romeo Dobbs might be a little stunted, have a little issue in terms of explosiveness if he's going to be such a big factor, because he is far and away right now the guy we've heard the most about most recently.
Yeah.
I think also if you're going to view Dontavian Wicks as like a distant fourth like that, then just trade the guy because somebody out there thinks higher of him. And you could probably get some value out of that.
It's still too early, though.
I think it is early, but at some point, if this is how it's going to be and this carries out through the season where he's seen 15 or less snaps, what are you doing here? What's the point? Get some value out of it because somebody around the league is looking at those analytics, the separation routes, like all that stuff about him and the production he had as a young wide receiver and saying, we probably could do something here with this guy if, we only have one other option.
So let me ask you this. What is more concerning to you when we strictly look at the snap counts? And we're really getting in the weeds with this one, but I think it is interesting to look at.
Time of the offseason.
It sure is. It sure is until Saturday. And Saturday we get more into the weeds with the 2s and 3s, right? Who earned a roster spot against the Browns? That's next Monday on Mr. Irrelevant. What's more concerning to you from the snap count? Is it the fact that Dontavian Wicks took 10 less snaps than Jaden Reed, or is it the fact that he only had 1 more than Bo Melton?
I think it's the 10 less. The fact that there seems to be a clear established 3. The Packers are going to run 11 personnel, which for those who don't know is 1 tight end, 1 running back. That is very much a part of the Shanahan-style offense. So those 3 guys are going to be the go-to guys and most often on the field. You think Christian Watson has to have a spot just because of what he provides as a vertical threat.
Totally.
So it does become redundant. Because you think primarily Reed out of the slot, and then who's going to be that wide receiver that is kind of the route runner. Right now, they've picked that as Romeo Doubs, and if they think Romeo Doubs is that good of a connection, has performed that well, you're not taking him off the field a whole lot.
No, you're not.
I've thought all offseason there was going to be 3 guys that came away as the clear leader, and right now our first signal is the clear leader are Doubs, Watson, and Reed. And I think that's informative. It can change.
Yeah.
Injuries, stuff like that, but
I would even dumb that down a notch, Joshy, right? Because when you say clear leader, that indicates one name to me. And I think through 10 practices, the clear leader is Romeo Doubs.
Yes.
He's been Cook and Jair Alexander. That's a former first-team All-Pro.
Yeah.
And a guy who we hope, as Packers fans, can get back to that level in 2024 with this new defense under coordinator Jeff Hafley. So I think it's an interesting point by you. But to me, it says the clear leader is Romeo Doubs. He had, 21 of the 26 first-team snaps. That's a healthy dosage for Romeo Doubs. So if he's making this big jump here in year 3, Doubs is, I don't know that worries me that Wicks is only getting, if he's only getting 15 snaps, it's a little scary.
Yeah.
But because what is it typically? Somewhere between 50 and 60 offensive snaps typically?
Yeah, it depends on the game and how much you slow it down, how much you run the ball, but yeah, you could see up to like 75 if a game is a little high scoring, a little faster pace, but you'd think around 60 is what is going to be a game.
Yeah. I'm interested by this, but Hunter, I want to throw to you. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Joshy, and then you can give your take on this. It might be nothing to worry about. Maybe it was just like a light day for him too. But 10 snaps less than Jaden Reed, Hunter, 1 more than Bo Melton for Dontavian Wicks, and 6 of the 26 first team snaps for him. Which of those metrics is more concerning to you? That he's clearly thought of more as a Bo Melton than a Jaden Reed, or that he's taking that many less snaps than Jaden Reed?
I'm not concerned about either of them because I think Matt LaFleur has shown how secretive he wants to be about stuff when it comes to, I don't want to do joint practices. And when he got asked last year about the lack of streaming for family night and that, I think that's more what this is. And they're just we're just going to go vanilla. These are kind of our 3 guys, but I think it's really a Wicks would be a 4th and get used more in a normal week. I'd only start getting worried about his snap counts until you actually get into the regular season. And I know that's a long way out for fans, but I think that's really what this is. I think Matt LaFleur is a level of paranoid as a head coach to what, I'm a huge college football fan. Bo Schembechler, the head coach of Michigan, he was concerned that Woody Hayes was flying planes over his practices during the season to steal formations from him. That's the level of paranoid that I think Matt LaFleur gets to at times, and the Packers do. So I think that's really more what this is.
To add to the paranoid coaches, Chewy on Jen Gibby Chewy 7 to 9, listen to ESPN Milwaukee, mentioned that Mike Holmgren sent a coach. Yeah, thank you very much. Sent a coach over to the gas station right on the corner there by the practice field. Sent a coach over there to confirm that the roofers were actually roofers and not another NFL team scouting their practice from the roof of the gas station.
That's awesome.
They were, in fact, just doing their job.
They were, in fact, just roofers. That's an awesome story. I had not heard that one. That's fantastic. Yeah, no, Coach Paranoia is super real. Super real. At every level, high school, college, pros. And I imagine it's only amped up in the pros. So it is real. But
to add to a little bit what Hunter said, where there kind of can be a little gray area, LaFleur did admit readily we were playing vanilla, extremely vanilla.
Yeah.
This is all the basic stuff, and they might have just done because they were planning to run 11 personnel so much that, hey, these are the 3 guys that will be in most. But if that snap count between the 3rd guy and 4th guy ends up being a difference of 6 or 7, less than 12 or something, then that's not really a big deal because then that's just talent outs. Who gets open, who catches the ball.
Totally.
Yeah,
totally. And so that leads me. No, go ahead, Hunter.
Two, Wicks could just be the type of guy where more reps doesn't actually help him. That's a thing that happens in football where you get guys that they're great in a limited number of situations and spaces, But then the second you start to expand that and you're putting them out there against corners and against veterans more often, then they aren't able to continually get themselves open or do whatever it is that they do well. So it's like he could just be more of a specialist type of guy, that this is just what he's going to be. And like you always think that there could be more, but he doesn't actually do it.
I get the thought. I think with how much hype there's been around him, and rightfully so, I just find that not his role.
I find it hard to ignore the fact that he's been compared to, not by just Jason Wilde, but by Matt LaFleur, as Dontavian Wick said, as Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams, yeah.
If you got a guy who you're comparing to Devontae Adams, you figured you want him on the field quite a bit.
You would think. So that gets us to this next conversation, which we've had many times before, and I'm curious on both your thoughts on this. Is essentially, I've called it both. I've landed on both sides of this argument because it's a tough one, right? Like I firmly believe Super Bowl teams always have a great number one option. The Chiefs have Kelsey. When the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl, they had Mike Evans and Rob Gronkowski. When the Patriots won all those years, they had Rob Gronkowski. When the Rams won, they had Cooper Kupp and Odell Beckham Jr. Super Bowl champions, at least in recent history, have always had a terrific number one option. The Packers clearly don't have that, right? We just talked about how Romeo Doubs might be emerging as that true number one option for the Packers, given the camp he's had and the rapport he has with the quarterback. But I don't know that anybody outside of Green Bay views Romeo Doubs as a true number one option. So is it, A, the Packers have unbelievable depth when it comes to pass catchers? And, oh, yeah, we should probably mention Luke Musgrave looking like he's ready for a huge sophomore jump. And Tucker Kraft we haven't seen yet in practice, but people are high on him. So add two more names to that list that are good receiving options. Josh Jacobs is getting ready to, he said the big thing he wants to prove in 2024 is how good of a receiving back he is. Right? They've got a ton of receiving options on this offense. So is A, the depth they have is their superpower, or is it B, they have too many mouths to feed, and somebody's going to get disappointed? And Saturday at Family Night, it was Dontavian Wicks. Now, could it be somebody different is popping off and somebody different is disappointed every week? I'm sure. I mean, that's what we saw a lot of, especially in the second half of last year. But I lean more their depth is their superpower. At least as of now, I lean more to that side. I think it's harder to scheme against for opposing defensive coordinators. I think it's harder to understand what this offense is capable of when you have four wide receivers, really five if you want to count Bo Melton, and two tight ends that are efficient pass catchers and good playmakers. I think the argument can be made, hey, this could be their superpower. I don't know if that makes them Super Bowl good, but I think it allows them to be much more creative and innovative with their offensive play calling. Joshy, which side do you land on?
I think I'm closer to the superpower thing. I think regardless of what happens, having more talent is always going to be a good thing. And we all here, I would imagine, trust Matt LaFleur in terms of play calling and offensive scheming. So some guys will be unhappy one week versus the other. That's just the nature of how things will go. I do think also that a number one's just going to emerge. And that's just kind of how football works and the NFL works as a whole. But the gulf doesn't need to be Devontae Adams to Allen Lazard difference between 1 and 2.
Sure.
I think you can have a number one who is the guy you look to in the red zone, you look to on third down, and then everything else is kind of a mixture of the other four guys.
That's Romeo Doubs, what you just explained.
Yes, which is how I'm characterizing this to not make me go full like I'm concerned about the Packers offense being a little impotent and a little short on explosive plays. Uh-huh. That's the way I'm characterizing it, which is fine. You can totally do that. Plenty of like Larry Fitzgerald was the number one option in Arizona for a long, long time.
Like a decade.
He could barely move, but they still managed to have an offense that was functional because of they had a reliable guy that they always went to when it mattered. And I think that's the biggest factor of a number one emerging, more so than this guy has 135 targets and 1,400 yards. I don't think that's as important.
Mm-hmm. It's fair. Hunter, I go to you. Think it's more of a superpower, or is it worrisome?
I think it's only worrisome if it becomes a problem to any of the receivers. Like, if Christian Watson is running those deep routes, trying to take the top off of a defense, but he's got a safety over him every time, and Jordan just can't get the ball to him, and he starts getting frustrated, and then he says to Jason in the locker room after a game that he's frustrated, like, then that's the problem. Until that starts to happen, depth is only a good thing. I mean, look at Team USA right now for basketball.
Yeah.
It only would have been a problem that the fact that Jason Tatum didn't play in a game, if he would have said, well, if I'm not playing, I'm just going to fly back to the U.S. Like, what am I doing here? Like, that's the only time that becomes a problem. Otherwise, you're like, this is awesome. One of the best players in the best league in the world isn't playing. So, like, if this happens, it's only
Strong
an issue
analogy.
if somebody else gets upset and starts to voice that, or they're voicing it in the meeting room with the other receivers, and then they start to get catty or anything like that. Otherwise, just enjoy it, have fun, and just don't rely on anybody for fantasy football if you're a Packers fan.
Yeah, good point on the fantasy football. Now, we need to just understand the analogy Hunter just made. I don't even know if he did it on purpose, but I'm pretty sure Hunter Vaughn, Tiny Hands, just called Dontavian Wicks the Jason Tatum of the Packers offense. That's what I took away.
Yeah, I'll stand by that.
Right? Like, it's the USA basketball analogy, which is a very strong one for a team that will likely roll their way to a gold medal here in the next few weeks. But no, I think it's a good point, right? Depth is usually viewed as a really good thing. Now, I still do want somebody to emerge as the consistent Jordan Love security blanket. That doesn't equal number one receiver. Because I think Christian Watson can be your number one receiver. Let's hope he's healthy all year, because I think he can be so damn good. But the third down situations that Joshy just alluded to, that might end up being your Romeo Dobbs. And to have a 1-2 punch like that is awesome. And then you've got a Swiss Army knife like Jaden Reed and a really good guy coming off the bench, essentially, or in 4 receiver situations, in Dontavian Wicks that's capable of a lot of things. So I think we all view it the same, right? The depth could be the Packers offense. The Packers offense's superpower. Easy for me to say. I think that's the smart way to view it and the correct way to view it. It's something I'm very intrigued by. Only 6 snaps for Dontavian Wicks at family night on Saturday. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about. Now, Saturday will be the first real assessment, if you will, of some of these guys. I'm not sure what route the Packers will go with a couple of things. Now, remember, there's only 3 preseason games for the last couple of years in the NFL. So this is game 1 of 3 on Saturday as the Packers visit the Cleveland Browns. Saturday, 3:25 Central Time kickoff, 4:25 on the East Coast. I would guess we won't see Jordan Love. That hasn't explicitly been said yet. Nothing has been said about availability in preseason game number 1. But my guess would be we probably won't see Jordan Love in game 1. It'll probably be the Sean Clifford, Michael Pratt show. And in case of emergency break glass, Alex Magoo will transfer, or actually I think they ended up waiving him, but he could transition back from wide receiver to quarterback. Now I need to confirm. Hunter, can you look that up? Is Alex Magoo still on the Packers roster? I think they waived him a couple weeks ago, and it was very low-key. But maybe he's back. Maybe they didn't. I don't know. I might be wrong on that. But anyway, I would guess we won't see Jordan Love. Receiver-wise, I don't know what to expect. I would like to see Christian Watson, but do you risk it with Christian Watson? I would like to see Josh Jacobs. You won't see Josh Jacobs in game 1. Yeah, he didn't participate much in family night outside of a few things. Hunter Magoo, Packer or no Packer?
Going through the quarterbacks, we have Clifford, Eason, Love, and Pratt. Just scrolling through because it's long. It's so long right now.
There's a lot of people. He would be listed as a receiver.
Yep, he is not listed as a receiver. I was just double checking because the website could have him at quarterback still for some reason. I've seen teams do that. So
Taysom Hill probably still listed as a quarterback or tight end or fullback on the Saints roster.
He goes to high school recruit.
He's listed
athlete.
as QB4.
Yeah, right, exactly. Athlete. Joshy, for some reason, knowing that off the top of his head that Taysom Hill is QB4, did you look that up or do you just know that?
When you're as deep in the best ball streets as I am right now, you just kind of learn this information.
So I did my first Underdog Fantasy best ball draft today.
Yep.
You've done how many?
I'm well over 150 by now.
You realize that's absurd.
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
how many normal fantasy football leagues do you participate in?
4.
Okay. I'm more of a 6 or 7 guy.
I used to be. I've whittled that down and concerted my efforts and resources over to best ball, where the profit margin is a lot larger, however, more difficult to win.
Fair enough. Well, I'm going to keep grinding on this underdog best ball.
If I hit, underdog and win 10 G's, I'm taking that. I'm taking everything. I'm taking the underdog, and they're going to be my buddy.
All right. Fair enough.
They're going to be paying me to play the games.
I'm taking everything, he says. Okay, fair enough.
Get a new house.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
Nice little down payment there.
Yeah, big time.
You can buy me lunch, though, if you win that much.
Hey, if I win, I'll make this promise. If I win over $5,000 between the 2 best ball sites I use, I will buy you lunch. I'll even buy Tiny Hands lunch.
Wow. Yeah, very generous. Very generous.
Yep.
Incredible. Nobody does it better than Josh DiMaggio. But anyway, on to the Brands game. We got way sidetracked there. Holy smokes. I don't know what to expect from an offensive perspective. I would like to see all those receivers. I definitely want to see Reed, Wicks, Melton, Dubose. But I would like to see Dobbs and Reed. And right. Said I do want to see Reed. Those third-year guys, Watson and Dobbs. I would like to see them even if they don't have Jordan Love. I just want to see them out there and running and, playing competition that's not their own teammates. Defensively, I'm just excited to see this thing in game action, man. And again, I don't expect to see Jair. We probably don't see Xavier McKinney. We probably don't see Rashawn Gary because there's Kenny Clark because there's so much money invested there that you don't want to risk anything. But even if we have like a TJ Slayton, Carl Brooks interior defensive line with Lucas Van Ness and Kingsley Enagbari on the edge, I'm still very intrigued what that product looks like. So I am super excited to get a first real look at this Packers defense, which has been winning in camp. And I would love to see all these receivers on Saturday.
And what is the defense? Let's just say, hypothetically, they give up 40 points or something, knowing that it's a lot of the 2s and 3s. Like, what do you need to see to actually feel good about the defense and not feel Monday's show not be the sky is falling, Jeff Hafley was a mistake? Like, is there anything that could happen where you feel that way, or you, like...
Shoot, Hunter, the Browns could score 60 points, and that's not Monday's show. 60 might be dramatic. If they could score 40, and that would not be Monday's show. Because it's the 2s and the 3s and the 4s, really, right? Like, these are guys, especially as you get into the second half, that aren't going to be making the roster or need to have a brilliant preseason in order to secure a roster spot. I just want to see what it looks like, right? Like, we've seen some flashes of it's really punch you in the nose, get in the trenches hard and try to get to the quarterback quickly type defense. We've got some stellar defensive backs in McKinney and Alexander. But I just want to see what it looks like, to be real honest with you. Because we've seen a little bit in these practices, but I don't think it gives you the full picture of what this defense really is. So I want to see it for a full 4 quarters, and I don't care if that's the backups. I want to see the philosophy. I want to see the schematics. I want to see what they have drawn up. I want to see the emphasis points. So I don't think necessarily success matters if you don't have Kenny Clark and Jair and McKinney and Quay and Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith. Like, if you don't have any of those guys on the field, I think it's pretty inconsequential to what it will mean in the season. But I want to see defensively. I just want to see what it looks like because I really haven't, at least for a full 4 quarters. So it's more of an eye test than it is the statistical test, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but like, are you really going to see anything beyond like 2 high safety man coverage, base cover 2, base cover 3s? Like, I just can't imagine that this game
Maybe
you're going to see anything other than base coverage, which you're going to see. Like, I don't think that's going to tell you a lot.
No, and you might be right about that. Frankly, I don't know. You might be completely right on that. But it's how do I phrase this? It is filling the appetite that has been there for months and months and months, if not years, right? Because we were so over the Joe Barry defense. So it's just it might be more of an appetizer than an entree in this multiple course meal, but it's going to be a damn good appetizer, or at least we hope. Might be the best spinach and artichoke dip you've ever had, Hunter, as the Packers take on the Browns on Saturday.
It's funny you picked that
That's
dip.
how I view it.
That's my wife's favorite of the dips. I'm not a big dip guy, but
I'm a big dip guy. That's right up there. That's right up there. Spinach
they're weird
artichoke
to me.
dip.
Not a big dip guy.
Yeah, what does that mean? How are you not a big dip guy?
Dips are great.
I don't know. I just like I don't like spinach and artichoke dip, like buffalo
chicken dip.
Like I just no.
Really? Like
Yeah.
a queso, a good like chili con queso dip?
Well, I feel like queso dip is a little different. Like if I'm getting chips and queso,
it's
like,
dip. You said you're not a big dip guy.
you not
yeah,
like the
but
dips
that's
with,
like
like,
the only
chunks
one
in
that I
them?
like. What'd you say,
He
Josh?
doesn't like chunky dip.
Do you not like dips with chunks in them? Is that the thing?
Yeah. And I think they always
Like a
just
good old
look
classic-
a little weird. So like when I was a kid, I was just like, that looks gross. Like that looks like throw
They are
up
not
a little
visually
bit.
appealing.
Yeah. So then like I just
dips are not
never got
visually
into
appealing.
it. And now as an adult, I'm just like,
How about
don't really care.
How about taco dip?
Nope. Don't like taco dip.
Wow.
I'll bleep up Dean's French onion.
Oh, dude, I got some in the fridge right now.
Man, I'll dip anything in there. I'll go crazy.
Pretzels, Lay's,
Chips, veggies if you want.
veggies.
It's, I'm a dip.
Versatile dip.
Love a dip.
I also love a dip.
I had
It's
some
just
ranch
gross.
dip from Dean's just the other day.
Ranch dip.
Yeah.
What'd you dip in there? A little carrot?
Little pretzels.
Pretzels. Okay.
Some tiny twists.
Yeah. All right. Man, we're going to have a dip special. Monday after the preseason game. Bring your dips. BYOD.
A dip-isode.
Dipisode. There we go. Come on, Joshy. It's Monday and this guy's brain is cooking. Somebody's in midseason form. Let's go. Let's go. All right. We'll talk more about the preseason opener later in the week. Back with you Wednesday beginning at 12:30. I did want to dive into this a little bit. We don't talk a ton of Brewers in this program. We talk a little bit. I try to fit them in once or twice a week. It's not going really well right now, if we're being real honest with one another. 4-6 in their last 10. They've lost 6 of their last 8 series, which does not include the split with the Rockies to start off the month of July. So if we count that as a loss, they have lost 7 of their last 9 series. The lead in the NL Central is down to 5.5 games. And a questionable decision yesterday made by manager Pat Murphy. As the Brewers fall in game number 3, it was a rubber match against the Nationals in D.C. Tobias Myers is pulled in the fifth inning after I think it was 64 pitches, and they go to the bullpen, and we know how that ends up. So I don't know. It's not ideal. And the decision yesterday was very counsel-esque by pulling Tobias Myers, who ultimately ends up with the loss. 5 innings pitched, only 4 hits allowed, 1 earned run, and 2 strikeouts. The Brewers had not scored at that point. They were down 1-0. But you lose 4-3. You lose the series. You've now lost 6 of your last 8, dating back to the beginning of July. And now you're 4-6, I believe, in your last 10 games. So, not great.
They are also only 4 games back of the Phillies and 3 games back of the Dodgers, the other division leaders. And it's been sitting at like a 6-game lead in this division over St. Louis for almost the entire month.
It feels like a month, yeah.
Yeah, the entire National League has just not been playing well. Like
No.
I'm literally on the app right now looking at the standings. Last 10 games, Phillies 2-8, Atlanta 6-4. You got the Brewers 4-6, Cardinals are 4-6, Dodgers 4-6. The Padres and the Diamondbacks are both 8-2, and then the Giants are 7-3. So the West is turning it on. Everybody else has been crap. So like, it sucks that the Brewers aren't taking advantage of this, have a chance to get that bye and things like that. But like, I'm also not super worried about it because they're playing equal baseball to what the rest of the National League is doing. So I think it's okay. I'm only worried if this play continues towards the end of the year into September. That's when I'll get worried. Right now, it's the middle of August. They just got to get through it and figure out a way to just muscle through and keep on going.
Boom. Boom. It's well said, right? Like, the panic meter's not high. I also don't really have World Series aspirations for this team. Aspirations, maybe. Expectations, absolutely not. So we'll see. I mean, I think that's a crucial contextual point by Hunter as well, right? The entire NL has not been playing well as of late. The Brewers are no exception to that. They've still got a little bit of a lead, 5.5 games, as I mentioned, over the Cardinals. They've just got to turn it on a little bit. And that's the benefits of having a pretty cushy lead and having a really good first half that the Brewers did. But with the injury issues they continue to deal with, it's feeling like the Brewers might be trending into oh no category. And I know they still have the third best record in the National League. And I know the rest of the National League has not been good. But since the beginning of July, they have lost 6 of 8 series and split 1. That ain't good. That ain't good. So we'll keep an eye on it. It's only August 5th. Got some time to work out the kinks. But another disappointing loss yesterday and Saturday to lose that series to the Nationals after a Friday night win. Something to keep an eye on. All right, we wrap it up. As we always do, you learn something new every day. We learn something new over the weekend. It's time now for What We Learned. Hunter, we start with you.
My wife and I over the weekend talked about this on Wildy and Tausch, but we kind of impromptu went on a couple of open house tours, start looking at potentially getting a house. I never realized until you're in a relationship and you start sending each other homes how different your aesthetic is. And like what I deem is like, oh yeah, I would like this place. But then I send it to my wife and Sarah's like, nah, that place is ugly. Like I couldn't live there. We'd have to do so much work to it. We'd have to change this and this and this. And I'm like, okay, I see things very differently than you. And it's just one of those things you never realize it, I think, until you actually send that first Zillow listing to your significant other.
Yeah, that is funny. So is there a middle ground? Like, have you? Do we have a type of kitchen countertop we want? Do we have do we have a high vaulted ceilings conversation? Like, where are we meeting in the middle here, Hunter?
So right now, our kind of checklist has gotten to, she's not a fan of like natural wood cabinets in the kitchens. She wants like white or painted, preferably white, and then a dark countertop. And then as far as the actual homes, our big thing is we don't want to have like going up and down stairs. So have primary bedroom, laundry all on that main floor, and an attached garage. We were looking at condos really, just because the housing market in Madison is absurd. So that's kind of what we've landed on. But it was the fact that I'm like, oh, I grew up in an old house, a lot of the wood from the original home being built. Like I love that kind of stuff. Had the old cast iron radiators still in the floors for heating. Like I like that in a home. Sarah, she wants modern. She wants it to feel like this thing was just built a week ago. So that's where our differences are. And I realized, like, I'm just going to have to live with living in a new home. Like, it's going to look like it was built a week ago because I'm not going to fight it. Like, it's not worth it to me. I don't think it matters that much. So it'll be whatever she wants. And I'm fine with it. Like,
good luck on the search.
I don't want it to feel like I'm saying that's a bad thing at all, especially when she watches this back. But no, we'll be living in what she wants to live in.
Hunter is very, very, very nervous about whenever he speaks about his relationship. He got in trouble once.
Yeah, I got in a lot of trouble once. That was bad. That was a phone call the second the show ended. It was bad.
My girlfriend and I had been searching for a home. This was in the midst of the market being at its height. I approached it basically as the rubber stamp. I didn't really send options. I basically confirmed thoughts.
You gave the thumbs up or the thumbs down.
I rarely gave the thumbs down.
Okay.
It was I approached it much like it seems like Hunter is doing it now. Just you're going to care about this a lot more than me.
You cook, I approve.
I'll do what I can. As long as it's not like the worst thing ever and an absolute deal breaker. Is it got 4 walls and a roof? All right. Good for me.
Yep. 4 walls and a roof, indeed.
I think my biggest concern is just making an easy commute for her. Like, that's what I've gotten to.
Compromise is an agreement whereby both parties get what neither of them wanted. That's where I feel like we're at here. All right, what I learned. Look, I have never hated Justin Fields. I want to make that very clear. I have never disliked him other than because of his occupation as the quarterback of the Chicago Bears. I liked him when he was at Ohio State, believe it or not. And I often don't like Ohio State quarterbacks, but I did like Justin Fields. I thought he had a good opportunity to be a pretty solid quarterback in Chicago, except they don't know how to develop quarterbacks. Hopefully that continues to be the case with Caleb Williams. This Justin Fields second act is getting interesting all of a sudden. 3 months ago, we were talking about the potential of Justin Fields as a kick returner for the Steelers. Now, here we are on August 5th, legitimately discussing, is Justin Fields going to be the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers? So what I learned is that Justin Fields had a perfect practice last week. In the first padded practice for the Steelers, Russell Wilson, still dealing with an injury, didn't take part. Justin Fields was the first-team guy. He completed every single pass attempt, hit George Pickens for a one-handed touchdown, and had several running scores. Justin Fields as the Pittsburgh Steelers starting quarterback in a second act could be awesome. All we'd have to do as Packers fans is sit back and laugh. Laugh at how much the Bears screwed it up. I've got nothing against the Steelers. Unless we're replaying the footage from Super Bowl 45, I've got nothing against the Steelers. I like Mike Tomlin. I want him to continue to succeed. I think it's one of the NFL's great stories. He's never coached a losing season, as I think now the NFL's longest tenured head coach. I think Justin Fields as the Pittsburgh Steelers starter could be sick, man. And I hope it happens. I hope Russell Wilson, former Badger, loses out to Justin Fields somehow. I don't think it'll happen week one, but there could be a point where things aren't going well that they turn the keys over to Justin Fields. And I kind of want him to tear it up. That's just my take on it. But reading an ESPN.com story on every team's biggest positional battle, the Steelers are listed as quarterback. For context, the Packers are listed as kicker, which obviously is a big battle. If you're having a quarterback battle in camp, I don't think it's listed as your number one battle unless it's legitimate. So I think the Steelers are having a legitimate quarterback battle, and Justin Fields has a good shot to win it. Something to keep an eye on for those of you that like to be petty Packers fans. Hunter?
If Justin Fields lights it up for the Steelers, and let's even just go as far because Mike Tomlin never has losing seasons. If they have a winning season and somehow sneak in as that number 7 seed, does that already make the trade of Justin Fields the worst trade in NFL history? It's going to be
No.
If they give him up and the Bears don't make the playoffs and Justin Fields gets the Steelers into the playoffs, that is a terrible trade. Because then it's 100% the Bears.
History.
Other than the Herschel Walker trade.
They traded him for a 6th-round pick. I mean, from the Bears'
it's
perspective,
the fact that they
maybe.
even gave him up. And they gave up on him in the middle of the season. The organization gave up on Justin Fields. So
they didn't give up on it in the middle of the season. I mean, there was discussion
Stop being
into
nice
the
to the
offseason
Bears.
whether or not they trade him.
You're clearly being a closet Bears fan right now. Stop being nice to them. You know that it's bad, and they gave up on him.
I don't know that we could view it as the worst in NFL history.
No, there wasn't enough involved in it. But there would be no sweeter revenge as a Packers fan than Justin Fields going on to be like a perennial Pro Bowler, consistently in the playoffs, and Caleb Williams stinking. We need the Caleb Williams stinking part to really hammer it home.
Yeah, we do.
But that would be the sweetest of all things to happen. I tweeted it this weekend. I was having dreams about it. I was so excited about the potential.
I had a dream. I overslept the Packers game this weekend. I woke up and it was the third quarter. That was a horrible feeling. Hope none of you have that. Packers Browns just a couple of days away. 5 days to go. 3:25 kickoff on Saturday. Preseason football's here. It's football season. We're reacting to family night? Are you kidding me? It's awesome. We're back with you Wednesday beginning at 12:30 Central on the ESPN Madison, ESPN Milwaukee YouTube channels, ESPN Madison Facebook page, and, of course, the audio version available wherever you get your podcast. That's Apple Podcasts. That's Spotify. That's Wisconsin On Demand, and all the in-betweens. I don't think Stitcher is a thing anymore. R.I.P. to Stitcher. Thanks to Joshy. Thanks to Hunter. Tiny Hands. Bringing out. Thanks to all of you for chiming in on the ESPN Wisconsin YouTube feeds. We're back with you Wednesday. We'll talk to you then. Plenty more to react to. Plenty more to get ready for as the Packers get ready for preseason game number 1 against the Browns on Saturday. We'll talk to you Wednesday. It's Mr. Irrelevant. I'm Alex Strouf. Peace.